Today we are going over a melancholy book. This is Green Lantern issue 81. For those of you that may not have been around when this happened, or those that may have forgotten, this is the funeral of Hal Jordan. And that's why here on the book it says, Remembering the Hero. And what do we mean by that? We've gone over the event called Emerald Twilight, I believe is what it's called. And what happens is in the fallout of the reign of Superman, well, during the reign of Superman, should I say, Mongol and the cyborg Superman bring the war world essentially to Earth, and they decimate Coast City. And that's kind of where they lay their base of operations. Well, Hal's in space while this happens, and he finally comes back to find that his home city and everyone he'd ever loved is gone. And at the end of it, they have a funeral for a friend issue, which is like the epilogue, and they do a eulogy and remembrance of everyone that was in Coast City. And you kind of think that's where it would end. Hal seemed relatively okay. But then we jump into Emerald Twilight, which I can't remember the issues off the top of my head. I'll leave the playlist here. It breaks him. And he does what the Guardians essentially say you shouldn't do. He uses all of his willpower to try to bring the city back. The Guardians basically chastise him and say that he needs to come to Oa for the repercussions. He snaps. He wants more power, so it's not just a construct. It actually brings them back to life, because he says, what's this power if we can't use it like that? And so when he goes to Oa, he eliminates the entire Green Lantern Corps and collects their rings on the way to take out the Guardians. He snaps Sinestro's neck, kills Kilowog, and steps into the central power battery and drains it and becomes Parallax. So for the former earlier half of the 90s, he's a villain at this point, because he's just let himself go. He's completely succumbed to the madness. We come to an event called Final Night. And what happens is this, what do I call it? It's like an Earth Eater sun, kind of like Unicron. It comes and eats worlds. And so, essentially the Earth is dying because they are in perpetual darkness. It was a big event, crossed several superhero books. And at the end of it, when all hope seems lost, spoilers if you guys have not seen it, so we will eventually go over Final Night, but I will spoil it here, so if you don't want that to be spoiled, check this video out at another time after you've read it. Hal returns. He's found some semblance of his humanity and flies straight into the entity, destroying it and reigniting the sun, essentially sacrificing himself. So for a lot of the mid-90s into the early 2000s, Hal Jordan was dead. We do find out that he becomes the Spectre, but not a lot of people knew that. And so there was a lot of animosity about Hal Jordan, because there was no more Green Lantern Corps, there was no more Oa. And at the end of Emerald Twilight, Ganthet has one ring left, and he gives it to Kyle Rayner. And without saying you have great, you're able to overcome great fear or whatever, he just gives him the ring and says, you'll just have to do, and disappears. And that's how we got Kyle. And Kyle, when he first put on the ring, he was very cocky about it, until I think it's issue 54 or something like that, where the woman that he loved, that knew his identity, was trying to help him, she's murdered in a very horrendous way. I've also gone over that book. I'll leave a link here. And it makes him wise up and realize the responsibility of what this ring entails. A lot of backstory, I know. But with that said, I wanted to just kind of understand the heaviness of when this book came out. So here we see John Stewart and Donna Troy, Wonder Girl. And they're rolling up on Coast City. Bet we're the only ones showing up in a rented car. We ex-superheroes have to do the best we can. Maybe so, but Coast City meant so much to Hal. It's fitting, Donna. He said Kyle's going to meet us here? Uh-huh. He came out early. He said he had something to do. So the print date on this was December 1996. And essentially Kyle creates a cathedral here This is the spire that I was talking about during the eulogy that Superman made for the city. And then Kyle created this as a cathedral for the remembrance of Hal Jordan. This is Ron Marz writing, Darryl Banks doing the pencils, Romeo Tanghal doing the inks, Pamela Rambo doing the colors, and Eliopoulos doing the lettering. And we see so many heroes here. Shazam had just joined the DC universe, and this was during that time when people didn't really know if he was Shazam, Captain Marvel still, because they'd just finally got all the characters for Fawcett Comics. And of course, we see the Captain Marvel, Freddy, Flash, Superboy from the Death of Superman, John, Aquaman. Look at everyone's who's here. Hal would be honored. There's Guy. I should go talk to him. Now remember, Guy and John both don't have rings because everything's destroyed. They have no power. So at this point, they're just civilians. And then a poignant reunion between Dick and Donna. Nightwing. Donna, wow, it's so good to see you. You look great in the new costume, Dick. How are you doing? I'm good. How about you getting used to civilian life? And then I love how she essentially asks is, I don't see him here. Essentially, he just says that he's here. He just doesn't like to mingle with, the common folk, essentially. Now, one thing maybe that you guys can help me out with. All through Wolfman and Perez's run, Donna was engaged. I cannot remember the man's name, but they seemed really supportive during the Judas contract. They were getting ready to get married. And he seemed like a really supportive person of what she did. But now, all of a sudden, she's with Kyle. When did Donna Troy and Kyle Rayner hook up? That was kind of a loop for me. And now another thing about this particular book that's really important, and of course I love that katana's right there. Anyway, is Kyle's only been Green Lantern for maybe 30 issues at this point. So he doesn't know anybody. He's getting to know Starman. He's getting to know Dick Grayson. He goes, I'm going to head inside and let you two have a few minutes alone. He's like, seems like a good guy. He's one of the best. I want to tell you how wonderful this is. The cathedral, I mean. I'm just trying to do right by Hal, that's all. How are you doing? Well, it's tough to explain. I feel like I've lost someone close to me. But I didn't really know Hal at all. I feel this sense of loss, but I don't even have any memories of him to hold on to. I'm supposed to talk about Hal in there today, and I don't have any idea what to say. I wish I could just let John do it for me. He came with you, right? Yes, he was really happy to see you and how many people are attending. And I love that, he has this weight that he doesn't know what to do with. And of course, beautiful splash page here as we see a lot of people that we knew Hal would be personally with. We see Carol and I can never remember the mechanic's name. Help me out if you guys can remember his name. But anyways, we go in, we see Batman and Dick and Tim up in the rafters. He goes, Batman? And remember, Tim is relatively new to being Robin at this point too. He goes, why aren't we sitting with the rest of the mourners? I mean, you knew this Green Lantern, right? I thought I did, Robin. Then he turned into someone else. I find it difficult to accept his actions, no matter what steps he took to redeem himself. We're here to honor his memory, and I will do so, but I doubt I'll be able to excuse what he did. And that's just typical Bruce Wayne style. And remember, this comes on the heels of the death of Superman. So, of course, Kal-El's up there and he goes, thank you all. This is the second time I've asked to preside over something like this. Even one of these funerals is too many. It's never easy to bury our own. But this time it's especially hard. I knew Hal better than many, though not as well as some. I knew him well enough to be sure he'd think we're making too much of a fuss over his passing. That's the kind of man he was. Hal was many things to those of us gathered here. Comrade in arms, a friend, a lover. But he was a hero to all of us. There's no body to lay to rest, no tomb to erect. The best way we can honor Hal is to remember him. Those who are closest to him would like to share some of those memories. And of course, it's Guy that goes first. He goes, I don't think Hal liked me much either. I wasn't his idea of a hero, what a hero should be, and I let him know he wasn't my idea. I was always riding him for being too much of a straight arrow. We were real different, Hal and me. I did my own thing, but deep down I knew Hal was the model. He was an example. And for me and everyone else in this room, I never told him any of this stuff when he was alive. Yes, that's the way it usually is with people who are important to you. And it's just a great little way to see underneath the tough exterior of Guy Gardner there. And then, of course, remember, Barry's gone, so it's Wally that has to talk. He goes, as the great friends they were, my Uncle Barry and Hal were heroes in a different age, and they had a connection like few others. So it seems somehow fitting, or maybe destined, that they both sacrificed themselves for the good of the world. And then a carol. I always knew that in my heart, Hal was true to me. With his final act, Hal proved he was true to all of us. I'll live him always and cherish the memory of him and the rest of us. The rest of us are left behind to pick up the pieces and carry on without him. And what really was impactful for me while I was reading this, and I think I skipped over, but as we see all these heroes attending, there's actual villains who show up. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Because I found it very poignant. And it's just a pain in the ass because you can't show the whole book because of copyright issues. Hold on. We'll get there, guys. I appreciate you bearing with me. Here. It says, even a handful of the villains Hal fought, he's really did. It wasn't like this in the old days. These things didn't happen. Which, in a way, is a very subtle meta way to talk about how campy and very non-threatening the Silver Age was. But in terms of the universe, it's just a good way to show how much of an effect both Hal Jordan and, with what Wally said, Barry Allen had on people. And so Kyle comes up. He goes, maybe you've been away for a while. Maybe you're wondering why I'm speaking at Hal's funeral. And to tell you the truth, I asked myself the same question. I didn't know him very well, not as well as a lot of you sitting out there. But I'm carrying on his legacy. At least I'm trying to. I didn't go looking to be Green Lantern. It was just something that was happening. Luck, if you want to call it that. I'm not trying to replace Hal. I know I never can. I also know there will never be another like him. But now I'm wearing the ring. It's much more important to me than when it was first given to me. Now I understand what it means. It's not only what I can do with it, the good I can accomplish, it's also the tradition and the standard Hal set. Circumstances put Hal and me at odds, for the most part, and I regret that. I didn't have the good fortune many of you had. I didn't know Hal as a friend. And even though I'd like to learn more about Hal, I know enough to say I'm very proud to carry on the name Green Lantern. Hal made the ultimate sacrifice. I know he'll be remembered as the ultimate hero. And because of Hal Jordan, we can celebrate a new dawn. I love how he says that he uses his ring to remove the ceiling and let the sun shine on everybody. It's a very nice symbolic gesture. And remember, with the reign of Superman, all of Coast City was completely laid bare. Alan Scott was Green Lantern before Hal. And Hal and I were even born. Alan wanted to say something. I thought I might be able to lend a little perspective to this loss. I've been lucky. I was given another chance at youth and another incarnation. I might not look much older than my daughter, but I've been around a long time. I speak from experience when I say, things change. The world moves on as it should. It's our memories that allow us to keep the past close and dear. We remember Hal with these flames. And so they reignite the spire that they created for the memorial service that they did for Coast City during the epilogue of Funeral for a Friend. And then Swamp Thing steps in and gives new floral and fauna life to Coast City, and a statue is erected for our fallen hero. And what makes this book poignant as we come to the end, Batman stands off to the side with everybody nonetheless. Maybe I'll never understand what happened to Hal, but I can at least find it in my heart to forgive him. Rest in peace, Hal Jordan. And so even though DC wanted to create a new Green Lantern because the sales were dripping with Hal, I appreciate that they had enough foresight to just not toss him by the wayside and say, anyway, this is your new Green Lantern, deal with it. I love that they brought Kyle in, but they showed him as the outsider. He didn't know everybody. I mean, even with Wally, when he became the Flash, he knew that he had big shoes to fill, but he knew everyone because of the Titans. Kyle, from what I remember, when he was given the ring from Ganthet, he was coming half drunk out of a bar, and Ganthet just says, you'll have to do, and disappears. No guidance, no nothing. And he used the ring carelessly until it cost him gravely. And then he understood the magnitude of the responsibility that was given to him, kind of like Spider-Man. And again, that's why I'm glad they gave this funeral issue. And then it says, remembering the hero. So at this time in history, I'm glad that DC just didn't toss Hal off to the wayside and just let Parallax at that time be his legacy. So again, even though he's back, this is definitely a comic that you want in your book, in your collection, especially if you're a Green Lantern fan, because it is a big part of the mythos, especially going into Jeff Johns' Green Lantern Rebirth. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever you get your action figures and comics and pick up this issue. And if you've enjoyed this review, I really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little lantern bell next to subscribe, that way as I continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. And also, if you enjoy what I do and you'd like to support the channel, I left the PayPal link in the description. And if not, I still appreciate you watching this video. Either way, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.